Fox News Alert, breaking news on this Sunday night before Thanksgiving, and it comes out of Wisconsin, the city of Waukesha. That's about an hour north of Kenosha. Of course, all eyes have been on Kenosha this week after the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse in that very well-publicized murder trial there. Waukesha, about an hour north and a little bit west of Milwaukee. Apparently, a red SUV plowed through the crowd that was there to watch a Christmas parade in Waukesha. The video that we have seen but are trying to bring to you apparently shows the crowd, shows the car, I should say, slamming into the crowd just behind a school marching band that was in the parade. Shots also were fired. Now, whether those came from the vehicle or whether those came from officers or bystanders trying to stop this mayhem, we do not know. But that's what is happening tonight in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Roughly 30 people were seen on the ground, apparently plowed into by this red SUV. You see the pictures on the left of the screen there, these from WDJT television there. And we thank them for bringing us these pictures. A heavy police presence, we are told, in Waukesha, or a heavy police response to this terrible situation. No word yet on who the driver might have been, whether this was one of those accidental things where somebody gets their foot stuck on the gas pedal instead of the brake, or whether this was some kind of an intentional attack. We do not know, but it's happening right now in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and you can see there on the screen the heavy police response, and of course there are going to be a number of people hospitalized. Again, one witness said they were walking between some buildings, saw the SUV cross over, put the pedal to the metal, and just zoom full speed along the parade route. That's a witness who was quoted in the Milwaukee Sentinel Journal. Deafening cries and screams from people who were struck by the vehicle. That's, again, a witness quoted by the Milwaukee Sentinel Journal. So a terrible situation apparently underway at what should have been a joyous event, a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. What the motive might have been, who the driver is, we don't know any of those things yet. But a great number of people left lying on the ground. No word yet on whether there are fatalities or whether there are simply people who have suffered grievous injuries because of this. But you can imagine a red SUV plowing through an unsuspecting crowd. The outcome here could be horrific. Again, the reports are that as many as 30 people were left lying on the ground after all of this happened. The parade normally runs through the downtown streets of Waukesha. It's an annual event there, and something that kids and families look forward to. Ted Williams, former D.C. homicide investigator, is still with us. Ted, again, you've covered an awful lot of crimes in your career, and sometimes the easy explanation for something that happened turns out to be the wrong explanation. What are police officers asking? What are they doing right now to try to put together what happened here?
Well, the first thing, John, that they're doing is to try to take care of any individuals who may very well be injured on that scene. And at the same time, we're not sure as to whether they've actually got the driver of that red SUV in custody. If they certainly do have that person in custody, they are trying to determine what was the motive. Was this something that happened that was accidental, or was this something that was purposely planned? It just, to me, as you just reported, is so sad, okay, John, because we're talking about individuals' lives, people who just wanted to enjoy a Christmas parade.
Yeah, it's obviously a shocking situation. Terrorism comes to mind, whether domestic or international, but that's not always that, police aren't talking about that yet, and we don't know that yet. It's all a mystery at this point. Ted, stay with us. We're going to be talking with someone in just a moment who was there and who can give us an eyewitness account. But again, if you're just joining us on this Sunday night before Thanksgiving in Waukesha, Wisconsin, just about an hour north of Kenosha, where so much of the media has been focused this week, a car has plowed through a Christmas parade that was being held on the streets of downtown Waukesha. A red SUV just drove into the crowd. There also are reports of shots fired. Now, we don't know whether the shots were fired at the car or whether shots were fired from the car. Let's talk to somebody who was there. Jeff Wierzelewski is an eyewitness to some of what happened tonight. Jeff, what did you see? What did you hear?
Hey, thanks for having me. We were just sitting enjoying the parade, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, there was a red Ford Escape that had come by at a pretty high rate of speed that, some people picked up on and dodged things. And then he got to a point where the road narrowed, and at that point, that was probably about a half a block away from me, so it was difficult to see what happened past that, but that's where all the police and such came to a stop when they were finally able to get through the rest of the parade, and the parade stopped.
Okay, now the reports were that the red SUV, you call it a Ford Escape, that it actually drove into the crowd watching the parade. Is that what you saw?
Yes.
And what was the result? I mean, how many people hurt? Do you have any idea?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was about a half a block from me, so I only know that it looked like there was, some people on the ground, of course. As the police showed up, there was some mention that people had guns drawn and such, and everybody kind of started running away from the scene at that point. So I had grabbed my kids and ran from there.
Yeah, obviously, that's the parents' first reaction. You want to get your kids out of there. There are reports that shots were fired. Can you confirm shots fired?
Yeah, I did not hear them myself. That said, there was people saying that, and with the commotion of everything else going on, it did take a minute for the parade to kind of get their thoughts together and actually stop. So music was cut off and things like that. So I didn't personally hear them, but I certainly have heard those reports.
And what about the SUV itself? Did it come to a stop? You say it was about a half a block away from you. Did it come to a stop there, or did it continue on and disappear?
To the best of my knowledge, from the very limited information that I've gathered from scanner traffic and such, it seems like it continued on for a bit, but I don't know much more than that. At that point, I started communication with you.
All right, Jeff, stick with us for just a second. I just want to recap for people who might just be tuning in. This is live footage you're looking at from Waukesha, Wisconsin, courtesy WDJT. A holiday parade, Christmas parade, was underway there when at about 5 p.m. Wisconsin time, a red SUV plowed into the crowd. There were people just watching the parade, a marching band participating, and this SUV plowed into the crowd. There are reports of gunshots fired. Whether those were fired at the car to try to stop the driver or whether they were fired from the car, we don't know. Let's get back to Jeff Wierzelewski. Jeff, you said you were there with your kids. This is an annual event in Waukesha. People look forward to it. A great holiday time just ahead of Thanksgiving, huh?
It is, and it's actually really unfortunate this year because, of course, last year's got canceled due to COVID and such. So everybody was definitely excited to be back this year and be part of the crowd and get to see everything again. So it is super unfortunate that this had to happen. Take
me back to when you first saw the SUV. I mean, you had a pretty good look at it. You said it was a red Ford Escape. Was it on the street that the parade was on? Was it on a cross street? Where was it exactly when you saw it?
Yeah, by the time I saw it and realized what was happening, it was on the actual street of the parade route. So everything that was closed off, that all the vehicles and floats and bands and such were walking down.
So it was essentially following the parade and then plowing into some of the people who were in the parade or were watching the parade.
Yeah, and that's a great question, and I can't determine whether or not it was actually the parade members or the crowd itself. I'm not aware of those details.